Changing your settings is crucial if you want to maximize your gameplay and performance in any game, and considering nobody has made a video explaining each setting in Fate Trigger, I decided to spend some time testing these settings out and give you guys the best explanation possible. I talked about some really important keybinds that you should change, explained some of the most confusing settings, and revealed the one really interesting and secret tip about the audio section that could really affect your gameplay. Yes, you heard me right, audio setting. Without wasting any more time, let's jump straight in. Starting with the gameplay section, all of these will be your own preference. ADS mode, shoulder fire mode, and ADS sensitivity timing are all preferences. Whether you want to toggle to aim or hold your button to aim, it's totally up to you. I personally prefer hold. I put always sprint on, so I don't have to hold shift to sprint. It's just easier for me that way. I got used to it in other games as well. Vaulting, there's also a keybind for this. It's basically if you don't want to accidentally mental on the wall while jumping next to it or in front of it. Crouch mode and hold. I prefer to hold my crouch button when I want to crouch. It also lets me spam crouching easier while I shoot to make myself a harder target. Keep healing on. This setting is actually really useful. If you use your small heals, it will continuously use them without you having to press buttons again, until you heal fully, of course. I have interrupt healing on when ADS and when reloading, simply because if I don't want to right click to cancel, I just save time and reload my weapon or cancel healing if I want to shoot at somebody. I don't recommend enabling when sprinting if you use auto sprint, it will mess everything up. Switch weapon on pickup, this equips the weapon you pick up. I prefer that on in case I want to quickly shoot with the weapon on the ground. Of course, that can also sometimes mess you up. Auto mark items is useful for your teammates, leaving this on will help them a ton. It will simply mark any item of purple quality or higher if you don't already have it, and your teammates will be able to see that and pick it up. Field of view maxed. Camera distance obviously maxed if you want to maximize the view on your screen. It zooms out even more so you can see more on the edges. I prefer this on max since I play stretched resolution and my FOV is smaller. Now this ADS auto correction mode confuses a lot of people, so I have this currently on precision and I lower down to the lowest possible number, which is 4. Now watch how I hold my crosshair on this target, and once I ADS, my crosshair will stay on that target. If I put it on off, the crosshair won't stay on the same spot when I ADS, and it will actually be lower compared to where you originally placed your crosshair while in third person. And maxing this out on precision will basically be the same as putting it on off. Now this is all preference, but I want ADS where I'm holding my crosshair because it's just easier and better for me. My aim is just fine at any distance, so this doesn't necessarily ruin my aim. Then we have the UI and network. Make sure the hit indicator is on 3D. The rest doesn't affect your gameplay or performance. You could enable some of these settings if you want to keep track of your performance, like I do with FPS and ping. Mouse and keyboard, we will go through sensitivity first. Also, if you haven't watched my beginner's guide, definitely do that after the video. I talked about every important aspect of the game and broke it down in under 7 minutes. Make sure to enable fine-tune sensitivity. Trust me, you don't want to run the same sense for every single scope or perspective there is. I prefer fast hipfire sensitivity, which is your third-person sensitivity faster. It allows you to quickly move your camera around if necessary, and it's just overall easier to switch from one target to another. I will talk more about that in the aiming guide that I will make in the future, so let me know down in the comments below if you want one. 1x, 2x and 3x have a pretty similar feeling for me, so I put them on 270. 4x and 8x feel slightly faster, so I put them on 250. Same goes for 10x, which I don't really use in games. I prefer DMR over snipers on really high ping, and yeah, that's pretty much it from the sensitivity. Keybinds. The good thing about Fate Trigger is that they actually display every keybind you use on this keyboard on the screen. You know exactly which bind is free to use and which one is occupied. These are basic movement keybinds. I have them all on default except crouch, which I put on control, and I believe proning as well on Z. Then right here, the switch left to right shoulder is one of the most important options in keybinds. It's slept on and not many people use this. It basically allows you to switch your character's perspective, so in short, by default, your character is on the left side of the screen and you can see more of the screen on the right side. And if you press this keybind, which is caps lock by default, your character will switch sides. It will be on the right and you will see more of the left side. This is especially useful if you're standing behind a wall, for an example, and there's a gap on your left side but not right. It allows you to see a lot more, and really useful mechanic in my opinion. I put shoulder fire on my side mouse button. I use Logitech G502 Hero for anyone wondering. Shoulder fire is not necessary to have, but it does wonders in close range since hip fire isn't that accurate. I will show a couple of clips where I use shoulder firing. It's a pretty good mechanic if you want to zoom in third person and see more on your screen, since some scopes might zoom in way too much in close range. Definitely try this out. Toggle scope zoom. I don't use this that much. I prefer 4x more than 8x, but if you have that one enhancement that gives you 0 bullet drop, DMR and sniper do wonders in really long range with 8x. This keybind is only useful for the adjustable 4x to 8x scope, or for the sniper you get in supply drops that has a 10x. Now for items, there are many shortcuts you can use to heal up faster instead of holding one button to pick which heal you want to use. I don't have anything bound for now, but I will definitely change this in the future. I would recommend the same if you have any extra mouse buttons or keybinds close to WASD. I put my map on tab. It's easier to hit since it's closer to my A key. M is just too far. Voice is preference. And yeah, that's all from the keybinds. Controller, I don't use it, can't really help much there. Everything should be self-explanatory. Now when it comes to looting, I haven't changed anything here. I still can't quite understand how this works. I assume if you put lower than recommended, you can only have that much in one slot, which is not good. And if you have more, it will prioritize that item to take another slot for those additional items. I have auto looting on, really useful. You don't want this off. I use full screen. This is my stretched resolution. I will make a video on that eventually, but I recommend searching for one if someone already took their time to make it. VSync off and FPS locked on 120. The game is not that well optimized, so I run around 70 to 100 FPS, 70 on average while fighting. I tried to optimize my settings as best as possible and found these settings to be working the best for my performance. Nanite on close. Having this enabled reduces frame rate. I don't need higher quality shadows. Ray tracing is pointless if you don't run ultra or extreme. Anti-aliasing on DLSS 4 since I have a 40 series Nvidia GPU. I was also testing between frame generation and Nvidia Reflex on Boost, and I feel like Boost gives me better performance. If you have frame gen on 4 for an example, Nvidia Reflex disables, which means you can't run both at the same time. DLSS quality on performance, I prefer smoother performance than better quality. For advanced graphics, I have everything on low except view distance. I really need to see what's happening in front of me. I need to spot enemies in the distance as well, so having this on low isn't recommendable. It does reduce FPS though. There are two important settings that I wanted to cover here in audio. Volume is your own preference honestly. I prefer to have my background music muted. I don't really need it. Now it's really important to enable HRTF. It uses advanced audio technology to basically give you more precise directional audio perception, which means it will be easier to hear enemies around you or from which direction they're shooting or moving with a car from. Now the secret trick I mentioned in the intro isn't that secret, but it's really useful in the game. As much as you think character voice lines are annoying or boring, I wouldn't recommend turning them off. For some reason, whenever you're in a game and let's say you're fighting a team, you knock one guy and think the rest of the team is sneaking up somewhere or backing him up. I mean, obviously, we're playing squads, but for some reason, your character tells you when there's one enemy from that team remaining, which allows you to figure out if it's a duo or a full squad. Now imagine you and your duo are just running around trying to survive, trying to look like a squad, you know, and someone knocks your duo. Enemies will know it's only one of you alive and there isn't a full squad. It's so dumb, but at the same time so good if you're the one pushing a specific squad. If there is miscommunication between you and your teammates mid-fight, you just hear the voice line whenever there's one remaining and you guys can confidently push. Really interesting in my opinion. Not sure how many people have noticed this, but yeah, that's what I really wanted to talk about. That's pretty much all from the settings guide. I hope you learned something new or interesting about the game, and if you did, it would mean the world to me if you could just subscribe and like the video so the algorithm pushes my video to more people. I put a lot of effort into these guides. Thanks for watching once again, and let me know down in the comments what do you want to see next. Peace.